Tanmay Bhat is a star. No, I'm wrong. Tanmay Bhat is a rock star.
तू कौन है? जैन रेफ्यूजी? तू आ सकता है, तू आ जा, no problem.
Tanmay Bhat is probably the most consequential English language stand-up comic in India. Though I know that he now does a lot of English stuff, but still he's one of the people who made his name because of English language stand-up comedy. Now, everything that Tanmay Bhat does seems to make news, you know. Now, was he always this amazingly funny guy? Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But the question that I'm trying to answer in this video is there something we can learn as professionals, as entrepreneurs, as leaders from Tanmay Bhat about the way we speak and write? And if that's something that you want to find out, watch the video till the end, because I try to deconstruct Tanmay Bhat's secret sauce to stand-up comedy and how you and I can use it. So watch the full video. Tanmay Bhat of 2021 is a superstar. Now everything, like I said, he does, or everything he speaks, makes a lot of sense. But I do believe that he is one of the most consequential stand-up comics. In fact, one of the most consequential public figures in India at this point in time.
Abbuji, should I invite 5 of my school friends for wedding? If I don't, then they'll be really hurt. Hurt them.
Now, was he like this all the time? Was he so popular? Not really. Back in 2012 and 13, people like Tanmay Bhat were just testing the waters in terms of stand-up comedy in India. In fact, at that point in time, it was thought that English stand-up comedy or stand-up comedy per se doesn't really have a career, you cannot really build a life around it, etc., etc. And then one day, something happened. That is when the Comedy Store came to India. Now, a lot of people don't know about this, especially people who watch stand-up comedy now, but it's the Comedy Store which started the entire open mic circuit. So a lot of youngsters across big cities in India were interested in English language stand-up comedy, but they really didn't pursue it because they didn't think there was an audience, and people would, like, you know, shrug them off if they said that I'm really interested in stand-up comedy. I want to become a popular stand-up comic and make my money with that. And people would say, you probably are joking. So the Comedy Store started asking young stand-up comics and not so young stand-up comics also to apply for open mics. Open mics are where you test out new material, you get feedback from the crowd, and then you prepare for the big stage. Now, how do I know all of this? I know all this because I myself, yours truly, actually participated in the wild west of stand-up comedy in India. That is when it started, 2012-13. And
you know, most of you South Bombay chauntlias, I'm from New Bombay. Don't belong to this country. I come from a country very far away.
And I saw people like Tanmay Bhat and Khamba, the original founders of All India Bakchod or AIB, they were there in every open mic, you know, and they would keep testing out new material. Sometimes they would crack the same jokes, but with renewed enthusiasm all the time. And over a period of time, you know, with their commitment, with the feedback that they were gathering from the crowd, they came up with stand-up sets and they created jokes for the big stage. And that is when they were actually able to do the, you know, All India AIB roast, which made them super popular, the Bollywood roast, if all of you remember.
Karan, when you come like,
And that is true of every great stand-up comic. You cannot be a good stand-up comic if you do not get feedback, if you do not prepare for the big stage. Whether it's Kunal Kamra, whether it's Varun Grover, whether it's Kanan Gill, any stand-up comic that you take, they really prepare for their sets over months, sometimes even over years, and they take feedback at smaller stage, smaller venues, and then keep preparing themselves for the big stage. Now, this is something that Tanmay Bhat did as well. Now, we all are probably very different. Our lives are different from stand-up comics, but in one aspect, I think we are all similar. Especially, I mean, we have something common with stand-up comics, and that is that we also have to deliver our communication, get feedback from people, or let people take decisions based is something that we present, something that we speak. But do we prepare as well as stand-up comics do? My answer probably, my guess probably is that it's no, we don't really prepare. More often than not, we get into default mode of communication. Now, how do we take a leaf out of stand-up comics books? How do we take a leaf out of people like Tanmay Bhat and their book? And that's what I'm going to talk about right now in the last segment of the video. Don't go away, because this is where you get to know how you can use their techniques in your day-to-day work, life, career, and also in entrepreneurship. So like I said, despite the fact that our communication is really important, and there are some fundamental pieces of communication that we keep repeating time and time again, but still what we do is that we go into default mode of communication, which is we don't prepare for these pieces of communication, and we just blurt them out when we are presented with an opportunity, and that is where most of us lose out. Now, what am I trying to say? Imagine this: if you are a leader of a company, you probably need to know the vision of the company really well. You need to know the values. You also need to be able to communicate the belief of your brand, your company, and also your own personal beliefs which match with the business. If you are a startup founder, then you probably need to know the elevator pitch of your startup. You also need to know what's the future story of the company, what is the company going to do in the future, and why is the company consequential at all. If you're not a leader, if you're not starting a company, if you're just a professional working in a company, in a professional setup, even then you always need to know some professional highlights from your journey. More often than not, these things we don't really pay a lot of attention to, and we speak them out or we write them out as they come to us. But what would be a better way to do this is actually start practicing these lines or these pieces of communication, especially with people, and get feedback. So that's my big communication tip. Keep taking feedback on the small stage from people for your important or fundamental pieces of communication, and later when you are presented with an opportunity on the big stage, you will shine just like Tanmay Bhat. Now, I'm also going to share specific tips so it becomes easier for you to follow this entire process. So the first process would be that take time out every month, whether it is with your team or with yourself, or with maybe your management team, to figure out what is your company or your personal brand's pitch. Now, it could it could be an elevator pitch, it could be the vision statement of the company, etc., etc. But whatever are the fundamental pieces of communication that you use for an external or an internal audience, take time out and discuss it, and ask yourself, evaluate whether all of those points or those pitches still make sense. That's number one. Number two is you keep rehearsing this communication over and over again. So you could probably pitch this to your family members or friends who are outside of your organization, and try and explain things to them in very simple terms and understand whether they get what you're trying to say or are they getting confused. If they're getting confused, it gives you the indication that you probably need to do some more work. And the step number three is, it's interchangeable, but what I would do is to use examples. So for instance, rather than saying that we are a very innovative company, you probably need to narrate a small anecdote of how you actually innovated for a client, or you innovated in a process, etc., so that people understand what you're trying to say in much clearer terms, and it fires their imagination. That's step number three. Step number four is that you keep improving over and over again, and probably in a few weeks, in a few months, you will have the perfect set, almost like a stand-up set that a Tanmay Bhat has, or a Kanan Gill has, or Khamba has, which you can go and present on a big stage. Maybe when you're pitching to big investors, or when you're speaking to the board, or when you're talking to shareholders, or you're speaking to your manager during an appraisal, or probably when you are maybe also going out on a date. You never know. You could use these things wherever it is possible to use. So that's my tip for today. Keep getting feedback and build your fundamental pieces of communication over a period of time, just like how stand-up comics like Tanmay Bhat and others do. That's it from me in this video. StoryCo is a business storytelling coaching and training firm. If you have any questions about communication, business communication or storytelling in business, feel free to drop a comment and me or one of my team members will get back to you shortly. That's it from me in this video. Agli baar milenge. I was trying to speak like Tanmay, but not working. That's it from me in this video. I'll see you guys pretty soon. Bye-bye.